The Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen, grab your seat, let's have a blast. At the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast.
If you love the entrepreneurial journey, how about subscribing and giving us a 5-star review? Wherever you get your podcasts, follow or subscribe and give us a positive review so more entrepreneurs out there don't need to feel alone. Thanks. Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. Today I have Jane Couper with me, who has done so much already. I was quite exhausted reading her bio, but Jane is the CEO of a company called Novello, and they supply medical staff to the NHS in the UK. Hi Jane, how are you?
Hello, I'm very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Tell me exactly about the business, because it does it a bit differently, not just a nursing agency, are you? A lot more than that.
Yes, it does. We do things a little bit differently. We develop our own software, which enables our nurses and other healthcare professionals to self-serve on an app that they can download in the App Store. And it means really, for them, it means that they can take control of their own agency life. It's completely transparent for them. They can choose where they work, they can see the rates that they're working for, and they can manage the process for themselves from the minute they download and register on the app through to booking their first shift and getting paid. And for us, what it allows is to create this sustainable agency model for the NHS, where traditional recruitment models, perhaps the NHS is finding it difficult to procure its contingent workforce using traditional recruitment models. There's plenty of media, I think, around the agency spend in the UK. And what technology can do is it can help us integrate with the NHS. It can help us create apps where nurses can self-serve, and that allows us to pass those cost savings and efficiencies onto the NHS, and therefore saving them lots of money in the long run.
It sounds like a fantastic product. It really does. That works well for everybody, as you've described, on both sides of the equation and for the business. When you sent me your bio, it was really clear it had not been a smooth journey to where you are now.
No, and I think for most people there's challenges along the way, and I'm sure there's many more to come as well.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There are a lot of personal challenges for you, though, weren't there?
Yeah, and I think we all have personal challenges. I don't think I'm any different in that sense. I think I found it challenging going back as early as teenage years, and in my 20s I had mental health issues, became quite poorly by the time I was in my mid-20s. I was very lucky because I worked for Couper at that time, large corporate organisation that looked after their employees very well. I'd come out of university and gone to work in Couper, and as I was poorly and needed help, they helped very much. They were very supportive at a time when perhaps mental health challenges and issues were not something that was widely spoken about or supported in general, I would say. They were very, very good. And I, by my mid-20s, I was an inpatient on a psychiatric ward. And from there, it was shortly after there that I had an event. My dad passed away, and I decided that I had to get better for him. I didn't want him to see me in the way that I was. And believed that he could still see that, and it gave me the motivation really to kind of tackle it head on and get better for myself. And I was lucky to have the support around me and the healthcare professionals around that enabled me to get better from there. It was shortly after that I then fell into recruitment. I got back into the world of work and took a job with a recruitment company. And I suppose, as they say, the rest is history to
Yeah.
where I am today.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you got the help you needed. And as you rightly say, at that particular time, mental health just wasn't discussed as widely as it is now. And you were in the right place, it sounds, to have that right kind of support, which is absolutely fantastic. I don't think anybody goes into recruitment on purpose. I think most people
No,
fall into recruitment, don't
a
they? No,
familiar
I did.
story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, way back when. And it was whilst you're in recruitment that I know in your bio you talked a lot about values and organisations not sharing your values. What's important to you that meant that you left an organisation that you thought, oh, do you know what, that really doesn't fit with me?
I think it's really important to find a culture where you do feel like you fit and your values are aligned with that culture. I don't think there's a right and wrong in terms of what they are. It's personal to you, and that's important. We're all different, and we all form part of this beautiful world that is made up of lots of different people, and that should be celebrated. But I think it's important for you to find that place. And I've not always felt like my face has fit in recruitment, because the recruitment world can be quite an aggressive sales world.
Yeah.
It can be a difficult world to kind of maneuver through. And I came from a service background and found the aggressive sales nature in recruitment a difficult one to work with.
Yeah.
I loved working in healthcare and being around
Right.
healthcare people. I just think they are incredible people that I'm very blessed to have fallen into a world where I get to work alongside them every day. And I don't necessarily find it easy to see that aggressive sales nature in an NHS environment or in a healthcare environment. The two almost don't fit together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I totally appreciate that business has to do sales. It has to survive. It has to have a commercial element. It has to thrive in any environment. And so making those two things fit is quite difficult, but there's a way. And I think we've found that in Novello to do that. And I just found that in more traditional companies where the aggressive sales nature, the KPIs that we were driven to achieve didn't always fit with a more purpose-driven approach, which I think is where my heart lies.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It was one of the things I left a big recruiter is because, yeah, I hit the sales targets, and I personally would be straight down the line with my candidates and clients, and I left in order to set up something that was very different and treated our own staff very differently. And our motto was, we just don't play God. We never play God,
Yeah,
because I saw that a lot in recruitment and it was horrendous. Um,
yeah,
and and I think you're right. I think you can still have a really good commercial environment, a sales environment, and stick to your purpose.
yes,
Um, it takes effort, but I
yes,
actually think you end up making more sales, don't you?
yeah. I think so too, and I think
Yeah,
you build such a stronger network in that sense because people respect what you're about and they know what you're about, and it's authentic.
yeah,
I think it's important to be authentic in that mission. I think, some companies find a mission or a vision because we were kind of taught 10, 20 years ago that you needed to have one, weren't we? So we were
yeah,
told to create one, and perhaps marketing would help you with doing that. And that's not authentic, and ultimately it's not going to drive the business forward. You're always going to fall back on the KPIs that are at the heart of the business. And I just didn't feel that that was right for me. There's some people that absolutely thrive in that environment. They do a fabulous job, and there's recruitment companies up and down the UK and internationally that do a wonderful job that are built in that way.
yeah,
I just felt that, and I think more so as dare I say, the older that we get, the more closer we get to knowing what our values are and to what life is perhaps about. And you start to think about, okay, when I eventually retire, and I hope that's a long way off yet, what will I want to have left behind, and what do I want my legacy to be, I suppose. And for me, that became about mission and purpose. And I feel very passionate about the NHS, about the incredible institution that we have in the UK that we quite often take for granted, and is struggling very much for lots of reasons we certainly don't have time to talk about today. And nor can we fix. But I think we can fix a little part of that with Novello, which is that we can provide staff at, a low fee using the technology that we now have at our disposal, and that we can develop and not only develop an exceptional journey for the nurses to use and our other healthcare professionals, but also to help that NHS model and to help the NHS realise that it's time to move forward in the way in which it engages suppliers, its supply chain and their contingent workforce. And we work with other partners on that. There's plenty of other companies out there that want to do the same, and it's great to work alongside them.
Yeah, good. I think, the solution is in technology, isn't it? Because you've been able to reduce the cost of agency staff through technology. And make it the experience better for everybody. And it has to be through the use of technology, I think. And
It does.
yeah, and you're right, we can't solve the problems of the NHS here on the podcast. We've only got half an hour, and it would take years. It is for anybody outside of the UK. By the way, I had a guy message me yesterday via our TikTok to say he loves our podcast, is in Ghana, and he finds them really inspirational. So how bizarre that our podcast goes far and wide. But anyway, for anybody who's not in the UK, National Health Service, free on the point of delivery, and it's properly broken. I think COVID was the final nail in the coffin, and it fell over. And it needs a lot of people like you with innovation and ideas and passion to really help get it back into a state that's fit for everybody, because it's not working for the staff at the moment, all the people receiving the care. It's just, it needs a lot of TLC, doesn't it?
Yeah, and as you say, I mean, COVID did accelerate, I think, and highlighted some of the parts that are broken, but it also highlighted what an incredible institution it is. I mean, we had workers that were staying away from home for 3 months because they didn't want to take, this thing back home to their wives or husbands and children, and they worked, 70, 80-hour working weeks just to save lives, and they put themselves in the middle of it when they didn't know, what that would do. Just the most incredible people. And, COVID really helped the wider audience see that. I'm lucky enough to speak to them every day. I know how wonderful they are, and I was pleased that the rest of the country got to see that too. And there were mixed feelings around the clapping on the doorstep and all these things. But I think ultimately what all people wanted to show was their appreciation for the NHS and the strength of emotion that we have in the UK here around the NHS. And I think that anybody that sits in the supply chain or is a partner to the NHS in any way has a responsibility to help fix it and to help be part of the solution and not the problem. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, totally agree. So, are you a techie, Jane? Are you a software developer?
No.
How have you ended up in an app-related business?
I'm absolutely not a techie. My son would kill himself laughing at that thought. He's 9 and he's better than me already. But I don't think that you need to be. I think that, my love for technology developed as I saw how powerful it was in terms of providing solutions and helping things that perhaps we haven't got the manpower to help, and where we can find these automations in recruitment that help deliver a better service, a better product. And, and it's really exciting to see what we've been able to do with the app. And it isn't rocket science, we automate the processes that we do manually either in our heads or with a spreadsheet or whatever manual ways we've found, and we allow our people to do what they're wonderful at, and that is talking with our partners and our members, our clients and our hospitals and our nurses and our ODPs and all the other healthcare professionals that make up this wonderful world. So I don't think you have to be a techie. I fell into that almost the same way I fell into recruitment, but I'm very glad that I did. I think, with any innovation, it's just about seeing how you can make something better. Yeah. And then I say, this is how we can make it better. And then this team of wonderful developers that are much brighter and better than me at the development world set about it and do a wonderful job.
No, it's you're right. You don't have to be a techie, definitely, in order to build a tech-based business, without a shadow of a doubt. So where's the business up to now? What kind of size is it, and where's it heading?
We're still relatively small. We have a team of 10 people here in the UK. We have a team of 4 to 5 people out in Sri Lanka with a business that we partner with. And we have a team of 4 to 5 developers in the Ukraine who have been our tech partners for the last 2.5 years and continue to do a wonderful job.
Amazing.
We tendered for the NHS, so to be an approved supplier to the NHS, it goes in circles of normally 2 to 4 years, so we had to wait patiently to tender. And you've caught me on a very exciting week as we launched the framework this week.
Yay.
We launch our position as an awarded supplier to the NHS. Brilliant. So up till this point, we've been almost practicing our product and our offering in the private sector, and we partner with many of the private hospitals that, of course, do so much work with the NHS. They're an extension of the NHS, and
they are.
And they also do an equally wonderful job. And we've been very privileged to work alongside 4 of the biggest groups of hospitals in the UK to help them with their contingent workforce. And we now look forward to moving into the next phase in our delivery with the NHS over these next few years, and hope to grow rapidly in the years to come. The faster we grow, the more people we're helping, and the more money we're saving the NHS, and that's our goal.
That's really exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is a biggie, definitely.
It is a big step. We've been waiting for this week for 2.5 years, so it is very exciting.
Did you crack open the champagne?
I haven't had a moment to crack open any champagne, which I think we're all a bit guilty of. I've actually just come back from 5 days in Lanzarote. We had a family wedding to go to, and we had celebrations with family while we were there, which felt like part of it. So that was a nice few days out for me to, take stock of where we are and come back in refreshed and energized to go.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. That's fantastic. All right, so that's where it's going. It does sound like you're going to grow quite quickly. But again, so it's a long time since I was in recruitment. And in order to grow in the olden days, you had to put bums on seats to do the recruitment. But with the technology,
we don't
you don't necessarily need more people, do you? What's it going to look like?
Well, it is different. We always need people. We've surrounded ourselves with good people that are aligned with our values and culture, and we've got a great team with the 10 people that we have. And the technology means that where I mentioned to you that when I was in recruitment from 2009 to 2015, I was with another large company, and we went from a team of 10 people to a team of 70 over those 5 or 6 years, and had this phenomenal journey. I was lucky with a great team that did a really good job of delivering over those 5 or 6 years. And here, to do the same growth, I would expect we will only need 20 to 30 people, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's yet to be seen. It's new technology. It's automations that perhaps haven't been done in the way that we're delivering them, very specific to the job that we do. So it will be an interesting step forward to see how many people we need to do the job. As we move forward, but it certainly won't be anything like the numbers that are needed in traditional recruitment. And of course, I think the really important step that we've to take is moving away from this traditional commission model where
Yeah.
recruiters are highly commissioned. It's always been the case. It's been a very successful model for 20
Yeah.
plus years, and rightly so. And I think there's very much still a place for it in recruitment. It works, it incentivizes people. But I think the issue that I have with it in the model that we have and the end client that we have, which is the NHS, is that ultimately commission is there to drive people to earn more margin. And to earn more margin, you have to charge more. And
Yeah.
people are driven to charge as much as they can in that traditional commission model. And what's really important for us as we grow is that we have, it's not to say that we don't need bonus schemes and we don't need ways of recognising and rewarding people for the job that they do, but that should be related to service and the money that we save the NHS as
Yeah.
opposed to the money that we charge the NHS. And it's really
Totally
important that we get that
agree.
model right this year, which we're still tailoring and tinkering because it's important you really pushing your team to strive to achieve that mission and recognising where they play a part in that. But you can't have a model where you say, we're in partnership with the NHS, we want to save the NHS money, and then you go and commission your entire teams on how much they charge the NHS. You have to have the right foundations and the right models and processes. And, we're still learning what they are.
Yeah.
But if we keep the mission at the very core of the decisions that we make and we just are bold and confident in making the right decision and not making decisions out of fear, which I think people do very often. I think if we can make them out of mission and purpose driven, then we'll make the right ones ultimately.
I agree. It's a beautiful example, Jane, of aligning your KPIs, your actual systems in the business with the purpose of the business. And I've often said that if you do that, then the business just flies. And you're right that commission or bonus or however you describe it has to be based on exactly what you've described, because that just makes sense and it all aligns. And I think so many businesses miss that crucial point. So they'll have their purpose, vision, and values, but they then don't align the systems within the business to make them work. I mean, I spent my life embedding that into organizations, so I understand how it works, but so many businesses miss that piece and then go, well, hang on, we've got these lovely values, but nothing matches up. And then people actually leave because they go, well, that doesn't work and you're not aligned to your values at all. So thank you for sharing that. It's a really cracking example of what organizations need to think about when they're putting, and it is, you're right, it does take time to think about. And you probably won't get it right first time. And it will take a while, but you'll definitely get there because where there's a will, there's a way. I think that's fantastic. I think that's great.
And I think values, they're almost easier to install when you start a new business and you bring people on board that are aligned with them before they've even walked through the doors. You just know that they're aligned with the values. It's so hard you can't almost put values in people. They're there. And they are. And if somebody has to read the values from a website or from a stencil on the wall behind them, you know that actually those values aren't there. They're a marketing exercise as opposed to anything else. And you can very quickly get a feel for values when you walk through a company and chat with people, because it's a feeling as much as it is a set of words.
It's totally a feeling. It really is a feeling. Yeah, definitely. You're right. It is easier to do from startup. You can retrofit, but the board has to be absolutely, completely behind it. Otherwise it just falls over. Right. Okay, good. Right. So what I want to know is, if your business had a character or personality, Jane, either who would it be or how would you describe it?
Now, that's interesting. I was asked the same question by my marketing manager when he first came into the business.
Right.
sign of a good marketing manager, who wanted to know. He asked me 2 questions. He asked me, 1, what car would it be? And
Right.
2, what person or personality would it be?
Yeah.
And in answer to your question, my answer then, and my answer probably is still the same now, which is good to know,
Yeah.
was Freddie Mercury and Queen. Because it's really important to do things your own way, isn't it? With your own style, to not be forced into, the mainstream way of doing things, and to stick by what you believe in, I think is really important. And there was a great example where Freddie Mercury took Bohemian Rhapsody to a radio station, and they told him it would never work, and this 7-minute song would never work, and they had to cut it down to 3 minutes, and no radio would ever play it. And of course, it became the biggest single in history, and what they went on to achieve was incredible. And I think I've had plenty of people that say that our model perhaps won't work, and that the traditional recruitment model works for a reason, and it does. It does work for a reason. But I also believe that some change is good, and
Yeah.
that it's, we move forward, and it's about doing things, always striving to do things a little bit better than before.
I
And we can do
agree.
that. And we're at quite a pivotal stage in history, I think, where we've got a choice now to use technology for good, or it could be used for evil. And it's on all of us to use it for good, and for the right reasons, and in the right ways, and in ethical manners. There's plenty of media around the use of AI and how we use technology. And actually, technology can be used for good in every element of our lives. And it's exciting to be a part of that, even if that's a tiny little part in healthcare recruitment and the NHS's history. Then it would be great to pave a way forward with that model.
Yeah, I agree. I think for your particular style of recruitment, it's perfect. I think, search and selection, no, it's not going to work for that, is it? But for this, it definitely is. Have you looked at, I'm only asking because I've got a client in the social care sector who has to have agency staff from time to time for home visits. Are you planning to sell the technology on or license it to anybody else at all?
Yeah, possibly. We haven't really decided on the journey too far ahead, because I think so much changes, doesn't it? Even in the space of a year, I've learned. And I also enjoy that freedom now that, I've founded this business, and have a fabulous business partner that I work alongside. And I think it's good to leave choices open to some extent. I think
Yeah.
what's really important in this next 12 months is that we deliver our promise to the
Yeah.
NHS, and we show that the model will work and will deliver, the sustainability that the NHS needs. I think if we can show that, then whether Novello goes into those other markets, or whether we license the technology into existing companies in those other markets, I think there's challenges and pros and cons with both of those options. Then yes, I'm sure the journey will take us on that route, but I think I will let it lead us naturally towards one of
Yeah.
those routes as we learn along the way.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah, let's see where it takes you, definitely. My last question, Jane, because I know you've got a very busy week. If you had a kind of underlying personal purpose or drive or mission, or Hindus call it a dharma, your destiny, what would that be?
I don't know. That's a big question, isn't it?
It
I think
is.
we want to leave this world knowing that we've done some good, don't we? I think it's as basic as that, and it's as simple as that. And whether that's through your own work and that of your children, I have 2 young children that I'm conscious of my responsibility of being a role model for them, and giving them the tools they need to go on and deliver more good. Then that would be a lovely way to leave this world, just knowing I've left a good stamp somewhere behind.
Fabulous. That's amazing. I'm going to watch your growth with great interest, because anything that can help provide those solutions to the NHS has got to be a good thing. It really, really has. And I'm sure you'll be hugely successful. So thank you so much for your time today, Jane. I really
You're very welcome.
appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having me. Thank you.
Next up, we have John and Mark Cronin, who run an amazing company called John's Crazy Socks. You can find them at johnscrazysocks.com. It's a father and son team. They pride themselves on creating happiness and sharing happiness. And it's one of the best interviews I've ever had. It made me smile throughout the whole interview. And it's all about putting your values right at the heart and center of absolutely everything you do. Enjoy.
The Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen, grab your seat, let's have